Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. So this is a bit of an informal video, but I thought we should have a little chit chat about some issues or an issue that I've begun to find very irritating in the nursing context. There's obviously many, but today we're just going to focus on one, and it's about sexual inappropriateness within the nursing context, especially from male nurses. Obviously, not all male nurses do that, thank God to those that are still proper, that are still decent. But just this thing of, male nurses thinking that students are fresh meat, it's like two extremes. Either they're married or they're in a serious relationship and they say they are willing to accommodate me. Like, what nonsense with that? So anyway, the reason why this wound me up is I was in a psycho. If you haven't watched my video about psychiatry nursing, I suggest you go watch it. I think it's a really good video. So it was on this specific shift where all the nurses in the ward were male, and I was the only student and the only female, other than the kitchen staff and things like that. So we had this one patient while we're eating, they stabbed their toe on one of the tables and it was like bleeding. So me and the staff nurse, we take this patient to the treatment room, and I'm busy preparing my stuff to do my wound care so I can wrap up this wound and stuff like that. No? And then so I remove my watch and then I put it on the emergency trolley. I told this nurse to, can you please do the observation so that once I'm done, and then we can take the patient to go sleep, because it was after supper. They go sleep after supper. So cool, he does the blood pressure is done, and then he's supposed to do the pulse and the respiration. He was like, oh, I don't have a watch on me and my phone is dead. I'm like, no, it's fine, just take my watch over there and use it. Cool. So he does that. We finish with the patient, and this man takes my watch and wears it. He was like, oh my gosh, sister. And actually, it was this watch. He was like, oh my gosh, sister, this is such a nice watch. I'm like, oh, thank you so much. I bought it here and there and then stuff like that. Cool. He refuses to take it off. He was like, oh my gosh, I'm totally going to keep it now, sister. You can buy another one. I'm like, I'm sorry. Are you not the one who's getting paid? But anyway, I was like, no, I really like this watch. I bought it for myself. I really want my watch. Can I have my watch back? He was like, no, sister, we can swap, ne? How much are you going to charge me for it? So, obviously he's trying to create banter because of this watch, but it's just getting more and more uncomfortable, and he's refusing to take this watch off. So eventually one of the other male nurses comes in, and then he makes a joke. It's like, oh my gosh, leave the child, give her back her watch. Cool. So I get my watch back, ne? It was a different day now, with the same sister, or with the same male nurse. He comes into the tea room, and I was alone in the tea room because usually they would just let the student go, or the other staff would go and eat outside, or they would have a smoke break or whatever. So I was in the tea room alone. This male nurse comes in. He's trying to make conversation. He's being like overly flirtatious. He's like, oh my gosh, you're so beautiful. I'm going out to buy lunch. Do you want me to buy you anything? I was like, no, I'm okay, thank you. He was like, is it okay if I come sit with you and eat? I'm like, yeah, it's fine. I mean, it's a tea room, that's what it's for and stuff like that. Cool. And then he's like, when I come back, you're going to give me your number, no? I'm like, no, I don't need to give you my number. There's nothing for us to talk about. He's like, it's fine. I'll come and take your phone and put my number in. I was like, okay, the aggressiveness is just, oh my gosh. Anyway, so he walks out. I quickly eat my food and I moved to another room. I was like, I'm not dealing with this. And then on another occasion, a different male nurse does the same thing. While I'm in the tea room, I'm eating, I've got my earphones in. He comes in, he's making conversation. But you can tell, like, ladies can tell when the conversation is moving towards, very inappropriate things. And then he was making claims that I can be his second wife. No. One of the other male nurses walks in and he's like, no man, leave the child, you've got a wife already, why do you need another one? So that male nurse walks out, and the one that was giving me options, he was like, you know what, if you become my girlfriend, I can always leave her. I'm like, I'm sorry, my guy, like, what the hell is going on here? So it's incidences like that that just bother me that it just seems whenever new female students come in, they just feel like the easy targets, and we all of a sudden need a partner. Like, hello, I've got outside life, outside of nursing, outside of being a student. Like, excuse me. So it just really bothered me. And I was speaking to my other nursing friends, and it's not me who's had these incidences. Like my one friend, yeah, shame, her scenario was it was pretty bad. Like, aren't these nurses supposed to be protecting us? They are meant to be our mentors, our guide, but they're essentially taking advantage of us. And like with my one friend, she was saying that the female sister in that ward didn't say anything. And for me, I'm like, if you're not saying anything, clearly you agree with what's happening, even if you might not agree with it in your head. But because you're allowing it to perpetuate, then clearly it means you agree with it in a sense. And it really bothered me that another female would allow another female to essentially be harassed and not say anything. And like, yeah, I understand we can stand up for ourselves and stuff like that, but for me, in such a setting where it's a professional setting, one, you feel somewhat insignificant because you are a student and these are meant to be older people that are meant to be guiding you. And for me, I feel like I should be protected by them as a student in that facility. Yes, I am aiming to get to their level, and I understand when you're in your fourth year, whatever, they'll think, oh my gosh, you're the sister of the next of the future. But I'm like, I'm still a student. I still want to feel protected in this space. So why are you not doing your part to protect me? So they should be doing their part to protect me. And it seems like now even the security guards are getting into it. I'm just like, please rest. I already have enough trouble with male nurses. I don't need that. And a question to my male nursing students: do you guys ever have these experiences, but from the opposite gender, or even from the same gender? Who knows? So why do these things seem to continue happening? For me, there is five reasons why I think it's still happening. The one is, as students, we sort of feel like we need to keep the peace, because we are there for such a short period that we do not want to disturb the peace. Like, for me anyway, I feel like if I'm to report it, like, it's not a, I don't wanna make it less than what it is, but I sort of feel like it's not a big thing to get someone fired for. And also, if you report it, they're going to gang up on you. Oh my gosh, that student, she's troublesome, and then they'll start treating you negatively. They'll make your life very, very difficult. I mean, it's already difficult enough being a student where they see you as just a servant for the ward and stuff like that. So now you creating this issue or having this issue reported and they're getting warnings and stuff, it makes my life difficult. But for also the students that are going to come in, as students we talk, we're going to tell each other, watch out for that one and that and that one. So if they know that these students know what has happened previously, the warnings and stuff like that, then obviously they're going to make our life difficult for us as the current students and the ones that are going to come. So I sort of feel like, oh my gosh, I don't want to make anyone's life difficult. And also you feel that guilt, like you don't want to get someone fired over such a comment, because for them, they might not even think it's like a big deal, but for us, we are being made feel uncomfortable. The other thing is, sometimes I feel like we are not going to be heard, especially like in the context that I gave with my friend, where the female sister in the ward, she didn't say anything even if she was noticing these comments or these actions that these male nurses were doing. So if you had to go and report it, the guy is probably going to deny it, and then the other male nurses, if they're also the same way as him, they're probably going to protect him. And the female, if she didn't say anything, then she most probably will also not say anything, and they'll deny it, and they need to be his word against my word type of thing. And as a student, we already have the stigma, oh my gosh, these students are opportunistic, and all of that. We already have such negative connotations to being a student that I don't feel like they would hear our comments, or even if they are to say, yes, we hear you, I don't think it would go far, hey, because nurses protect each other, already protect each other in the bad things that they do in general nursing care. What are the chances they're not going to protect each other in such cases? So I think, yeah, that's one of the reasons why these things continue being perpetuated. And the last thing is, even if you are to report it now, I'm not saying don't report it, but just hear me out. Even if I'm to report it, in the next couple of weeks, there's going to be new students. It's not like the operational manager or the nursing manager. In most cases, they'll never tell you about such sexual harassment or such harassments are complaints that have been made by other students. And if you don't know anyone who has worked in that ward, if you're not in connection with all those students or students that have worked in that ward, you're not going to know what has happened, what's the context in that ward. And as a result, there's going to be always fresh meat. So it might get resolved in one shift with a group of students, but there's constantly going to be new students coming in unless a major case happens and then other students are being notified of such things. Yes, but if it's like small minor things where you go complain, oh, they're making me feel uncomfortable and things like that, then they're obviously going to continue doing it because there'll continually be new students coming in. So I think those are just one of the few things why these things continue. And also just the general fear of complaining or the general fear of reporting it. Like, you'll be scared because you might think, oh, it's not a big deal for me to be complaining about, it's just a small comment that they made and stuff like that. So just that fear of not wanting to report also is another reason why these things go unnoticed. So then what's the way forward? Obviously you need to speak up. If something is making you uncomfortable, tell them. Sometimes they might play it off and laugh at you. I've had those cases where I'm like, no, please don't do that, that's making me feel uncomfortable. And then they're like, oh my gosh, don't be so naive, oh my gosh, these students are babies. Yes, you're going to have those comments. Say what you need to say so that they can get off you, so that things don't escalate, so that in case things happen, you know you've stood your ground, you've said something and someone knows, or you've told them off, so that they don't take it as, because the thing is, if you don't say anything, they're going to take it as if, oh, she's agreeing to it, or because she's not saying anything and she's laughing it off, then clearly she's okay with it. So you definitely need to say something or make a comment, move away, so that they feel like, okay, she doesn't agree with this. Because if you don't say anything or do anything, then they're going to think you agree with it. It's almost like you're doing a silent agreement. And then another thing is, avoid having alone times with anyone who makes you feel uncomfortable, or anyone who might potentially make those comments or advances at you, especially when it comes to the tea room. So there's a lot of chances where you might end up alone with these perpetrators, in a sense. So just avoid those. If they're making you feel uncomfortable, tell them it's being uncomfortable. If they don't want to listen, then just don't eat in the tea room or wherever that context is, and just move away. So avoid being anywhere like your storerooms, your linen rooms, treatment rooms alone. Just avoid that. Don't even do that to yourself. And then please report it. Especially if you can find someone that you can be confident in to tell them in the hospital setting. So if there's another female sister who is nice to you, or who take, yeah, if there's just another sister that you can report it to and just tell them, I'm feeling uncomfortable, is it possible for you to speak to this male nurse, or just for them to guide you going forward. Also your clinical supervisors, that's what they're there for. If you have any issues within the hospital setting, tell them. Even if it's a small issue, or if it's a small comment, just tell them, so that in case things do go wrong, you have someone who knows what's happening, so that it doesn't end up being their word against yours. Because like I said, they will protect each other, and it's mostly the students that will take the blame for it. And the last thing that I can say is, confide in each other as nursing students. I know sometimes you might be alone in a specific ward and stuff like that, but you have other colleagues usually in the same hospital setting. You have 3 or 4 students that are there. Just confide in each other, tell each other, so that you have someone to back you up. That's what your class representatives are there for. If your operational manager is nice and you have a good relationship with them, that's also a good point in contact, because they can raise it up in their staff meetings. Without, if you want to stay anonymous, in a sense, you can say as you're leaving your last placement, then just write a letter to them, or just discuss with them about what was happening in that ward, so that they can address it for the future students and stuff like that. Like, I really liked it at the one ward that I worked, where after the end of our placement period, you would bring an evaluation form, and on that evaluation form you could write your good and bad experiences in the ward, what could be improved and stuff like that. So you can use that as a good starting point to have this conversation started. I know it might sound as things that are happening out there, but these things are happening, they're just very subtle, and because they are so subtle, I guess most people don't feel the need to report it. But yeah, it is something that has been bothering me because it seems to be happening a lot. And as I was speaking to other students, I'm like, damn, okay, so it actually is happening a lot more frequent than I thought it was, because I just thought, maybe it's just me and a few other people, but it's actually happening a lot. And yeah, it's really scary. Yeah, so that was just my talk. Please be careful out there. As students, we are vulnerable in a lot of contexts, but unfortunately in cases like this, and obviously not all male nurses are going to do that. Please don't feel scared of male nurses and stuff like that, but just have that sixth sense in you, or that third eye, to just look out for things that might come your way, funny comments, funny touches. It all starts so small, so innocent. You think, oh my gosh, they're being the nicest sister ever. Just be careful out there. I know we already have the general climate within South Africa where it's not exactly friendly to females, and I really don't want to put that fear in you in a nexting context. But just at the end of the day, you need to be careful in every aspect where you are, and make sure that you take care of yourself. And if anything is making you uncomfortable, please report it. Your clinical supervisors are your point of contact, and if it's not a clinical supervisor, then speak to your lecturers, whoever you're comfortable with within your nursing context, so that these things don't continue happening, no matter how subtle they are. But if you've had any of these experiences, or if you had a story, or just some advice that you can give someone who's going through this, definitely comment down below. I'd be happy to hear about it, so that we can just continue having this conversation and support one another going forward. So until next time, on a Friday, 12 p.m. South African time, have an awesome one. Bye guys.